One of the greatest achievements of our civilization and our greatest freedom is under attack. There is an increasing need to take a firm stance when free speech is being threatened. And if we have to make a decision between free speech or censorship, we should choose the obvious. Free speech absolutism is the bedrock of a democratic society, letting people talk openly about their political views, criticizing the government, institutions or religions, shouting fire in a crowded place, lying under oath, and others. Obviously notice by the latter examples that this is not what free speech absolutism means. But what does it mean? Because you never hear an argument about what free speech is, only whether we should have it or not. And that is by a very intentional decision. Free speech means different things to different people. There are things that everyone agrees to be a part of it, and things that everyone agrees are not a part of it. And it's easy to see why, as the arguments in favor and against them being part of free speech are well known and well understood. But there is no such consensus on a part of speech, whether it should be protected as free speech or not. Yet you don't hear any arguments or discussion about it. The only thing you hear is that we must protect free speech, as if anyone in our society holds the belief that free speech should not exist. This rhetorical tactic is used to argue in favor of extending the protection of free speech to these categories. The goal of this rhetorical method is to divert the discussion from what free speech is and to present the issue as a simple yes or no question. Because, surprising as it may sound, everyone supports free speech. It's shocking, I know. And by presenting the issue as a simple yes or no question between free speech and complete censorship, people will make the obvious decision, especially if they don't know what the discussion is really about. But even those who know it may choose this variation of free speech over complete censorship. Luckily, we don't have to make this decision because it's not about this. We can just keep things as they are and decide whether or not we want these things to be protected by free speech or not. And on one side we have some arguments why this kind of speech should not be protected, as it can lead to negative consequences. And on the other side, we have the rhetorical device we just discussed. But that's not completely true, because there are arguments in favor of including these in free speech. And the argument is broadly limiting someone's right to incite crime or violence could also be used to limit them expressing their political opinion. And yes, if your political opinion is that we should commit violent acts against innocent people, then you may be limited from expressing it. It's a crazy world we are living in. There have been a lot of findings about censorship of political opinions, likening it to 1984, the book that everyone references but no one actually reads. The topic of this finding is people being arrested for inciting violence. In some cases, even calling for some people to be murdered or to be burned alive. And when this happens, instead of taking a stand by their position that advocating for crime and violence should be protected as free speech, they whine something about political views and censorship, and even something about racist police. Yes, apparently the police are racist now. It's basically the Mott and Bailey fallacy. Making sound arguments for this position isn't that easy, as you can easily point out the negative consequences. And when you do point them out, proponents of this position will pretend that you are arguing against this position, and then proceed to defend it. Which is pretty easy given that pretty much everyone agrees with this, even those who are arguing against this position. Of course, this is not a sound argument, but at least a good way to learn about fallacies. But maybe I'm just too old-fashioned and have unrealistically high standards that people should stand up for themselves and the positions they hold, instead of whistling around arguments and spewing bullshit. And despite the crying and lying of countless grifters, I can say things like, I want less immigration, I want closed borders. I can even say things like, I want absolutely zero immigration, the deportation of illegal immigrants, and the stop to visa renewals for legal immigrants, so that they eventually leave, or if not, they are deported after the expiration of their visa, as after that they would be considered to be here illegally. And nothing happens. After I say all these things on the video sharing platform of a woke corporation. Doing all this while living inside the EU. Where there is apparently no free speech. Yet I haven't been arrested by the Stasi or the Gestapo. But if I said that we should all immigrants or the descendants of immigrants, or just simply harass them until they can't take it anymore and just leave the country, I would be committing a crime. Similar to if I would say that we should kill the President of the United States, or that you should fly a plane into certain financial infrastructure. And why would I even advocate for the mass murder of migrants, when I can just simply advocate for mass deportation and less immigration, like anyone else can do, including well-established political parties and candidates, some of who actually win and form a government. So it's pretty clear that you are free to advocate for your political opinions and are even free to criticize the government. You know, a right protected as free speech. What you're not allowed to do is to incite crime and violence. Some people want this latter to be also protected as free speech, and maybe someday they will put forward a sound argument for this wish. Could be any day now. But so far it has only been whining, fallacies and bullshit. I hope you understand the difference between these two, and when someone tries to take you for a midwit and tries to convince you with bad arguments that not protecting this, as if it was this, will result in this being banned, you will recognize it as the bullshit it is. So thanks for watching, and a special thanks to my Patreons, Jay Brandon and Ardabon, for supporting my channel. If you also want to help me get a better microphone and maybe some lighting, then please consider becoming a Patreon.